Hey gang, John Brackruther here with your Lake St. Clair Fishing Report, brought to you by Sportsmen's Direct. It is Thursday, May 25th, and Memorial Weekend is approaching. And for many of you, I know this is just a weekend to maybe get out and open up the cottage or get the boat out for the first time, or maybe some of you are in from out of town just to bass fish or walleye fish. But for many other people, this weekend has much more significance as they've had family members that have given their life for the very freedoms that we're experiencing right now, right? The freedom to travel, the freedom to fish and worship, and many other things that we hold very dear in this country. So we don't want to ever lose sight of that on this weekend. So it is much more than just a long holiday for many folks. Now, the water temp at Belle Isle right now is 59 degrees. This morning was actually at 60. We've had a couple of really cold nights here in a row that's really taken a toll on a lot of our gardens out there. My tomato plants are looking rough today, so I really need it to warm up pretty quick. I got a lot more stuff I need to put into the garden yet, and I'm going to hold off for just another day or so. Yeah, we've had a couple of blow days this week. Yesterday was really windy. Today really wasn't a whole lot better, but it looks like tomorrow and the rest of the weekend should be pretty good. The weather forecast going forward looks really nice with a big warm-up coming next week, if they're right and they don't pull them all back like they've been doing. But it looks like the end of the week we're talking mid 80s for a couple of days, and that's a big deal, and that will make a big difference. And it looks like we're going to get into pretty much a south to southeast flow. So we'll have to see what that does wind-wise. Usually, I mean, east winds are no fun, but as long as they're light, I mean, really light, kind of variable south-southeast, we should be okay. But I'm not kind of buying that forecast completely, because if we're going to get up to 86 or 87 one day, she's going to blow pretty hard out of the south. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what materializes when we get closer. But anyways, there's a warm-up coming, and that's going to warm the lake up more. Now, the walleye bite is still going really strong, both up on the St. Clair River, the South Channel, all around Algonac, and out on the main lake as well. Now, the main lake, the trick, and it sounded like a broken record, is going to be finding that off-colored water. Now, if you look at our satellite image for this that I just saw today, that was a really good one. At least the first image today was beautiful. And it really showed how these winds have just added some color to the water. And it's not just the water on the lake. Remember, everything on Lake St. Clair is somewhat dependent on that water coming down from Lake Huron, right? And so there's some color in that water now up on the St. Clair River, which means you jiggers ought to be really happy because you ought to be able to get in some good jigging this week, provided that water doesn't clean up too much in the next few days. But right now there's a good stain in the water. The jigging should be phenomenal, and that stained water is also coming down into the lake, and you can see it on the satellite image. Now, for you bass guys, it looks like also on that image that especially down through the mile roads, that the point at Metro is kind of protecting that near shore area, and the water is staying pretty clean. But once you get offshore a little bit, it looks like you got a lot more color. Now, I will say this, with the onshore breezes that we've had, there could be, and it's not going to show up in the satellite image because you can't zoom in that close, but there could be some really good color in really, really tight too. So for you guys that are chasing walleyes, don't forget to really check out that skinny water, which some of these bass guys will be fishing as well. But even in 5 or 6 feet, if there's weeds up in there and you got color in the water, and the water temps right now only at 60 degree-ish area down along the shoreline, there's plenty of walleye activity. And we know that for a fact because the guys at night are taking walleyes off all the different piers. Places like Brandenburg, Harley, the point at Metro. I would imagine the new pier in St. Clair Shores, Blossom Heath, would be a good bet too. So any of these shoreline areas or these river mouth areas are going to attract those walleyes, especially at night, and maybe even a little bit before dark, if provided that water color is dirty enough for them so that they feel comfortable moving around in there. Now, there's also, I'm reminded by Michael Downey of Relentless Grind Guide Service, that the white bass run is going now. And I know it looks like Michael's been out there chasing them, and I think he got one, or one of his folks got one like 17.5 inches, which is really a big white bass. Now that run is going down on the river, should be hardcore down there. But as you move up through the lake, we're only seeing sporadic and spotty schools of fish in and around the points, and like places like the mouth of the spillway, Harley Ensign, basically the same places these guys are going to be casting for walleyes in the evening. White bass will be there during the daytime hours, especially early morning. That's when I usually like to target them, really early in the morning. And out in the boat, if you want to target them, watch for the birds. When you see the school, or you see the seagulls dive bombing, that usually means the white bass are there pushing the bait fish up to the surface. And then sometimes down right underneath the white bass schools will be schools of walleye, because they're feeding on those same bait fish as well. So it's just one of the patterns I've learned over the years out here, is if you want to get walleyes out of a white bass school, just cast beyond the school, let it drop down underneath, and pull a swim bait or spoon or anything, crankbait, down underneath the schools of white bass, which is easier said than done sometimes, because those white bass are pretty aggressive. So anyways, shout out to Michael down here, Relentless Grind Service, for those pictures of the white bass. Now, the smallmouth right now, for a lot of you guys that are fishing, I know you struggled the last few days, especially with the cold front and the wind conditions. Right now, you got these fish that are they're mixed, right? You've got it's probably a third fish are spawning, a third of the fish are post-spawn, and a third, maybe a third of the fish are pre-spawn. And then those numbers are going to change depending on where you are on the lake. The southern half of the lake's warmed up a little bit more. Places like Muscatmoot warmed up earlier. So those ratios are going to be different. But that's the beautiful thing about Lake St. Clair, is that you can literally just move around on the lake, and you can get into different populations of fish that are going to be in different stages of the spawn. So there's probably going to be opportunities to fish spawning fish well into June. Sometimes we'll go all the way up until the opener, which is the third Saturday. So, I mean, and then when you get cool springs like we've had now, it just kind of extends that out. So there are fish around. So don't think that if the fish in your area look like they're like done spawning and the beds are empty, move along and you'll find another area where they're not. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the beautiful things about this lake, is just the diversity out there. So those fish off of the Basset out there are still going strong out in 20 feet. There's walleyes mixed in with them, and I guess the numbers are just phenomenal. So if you know where that area is, or it's almost right out in the middle of the lake, I mean, it's really just, it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's kind of amazing that those fish are spawning out there. But they did it last year, they're doing it again this year. They've probably been doing it forever, and it just took guys to figure it out and find them. There's still limits of crappies coming from some of the shallow areas, and it sounds like the sunnies are really turning on out there right now as well. And those fish, for the guys chasing pumpkin seeds, those fish are probably pre-spawn right now, and they're going to go on beds, I would imagine, here pretty quick with that big warm-up we've got coming. If that water temperature in the shallows pushes up into the upper 60s, and it very well could if we get mid to upper 80s and sunshine and some onshore breezes, you could see a phenomenal pumpkin seed bite, maybe better than even what you got going on right now. And they're a lot of fun. I love catching those big sunnies. They really pull hard, and you can catch them on all kinds of different baits, like beetle spins and small grubs, and of course, worms and stuff like that too. But I like catching them on the artificials. It's real fun catching them that way. Let's see. I think that's really about all I've got right now. You still got charter captains out there, like Joe Bauer from Smallmouth Heaven Guide Service. They're still going out chasing smallies. You got guys like Garrett Samsel that are out there right now doing multi-species charters, and they've been taking a lot of walleyes up there in that St. Clair River system, and they've also been taking a lot of beautiful smallmouths and some really big pike too, which are pretty cool. Those fish have been spawned out for a while, and they're looking pretty lean. So those fish have got the feed bag on right now, trying to bulk back up after their spring spawn. And then of course you've got a lot of you guys I know are getting ready for muskie season. It's not that far away, and guides like Captain Jason Quintano, Fins and Grins Charter, Spencer Berman, those guys are getting their boats ready for the big water out there for trolling. So those guys will probably be pretty quiet out there right now on the wallies and smallies, but I know they're getting ready and anxious to get going on the muskie season out here. So Anyways, we've got some new baits in the store this week for you guys. The smallmouth bite's been kind of crazy this year as far as colors. That they always have a taste for like a hint of bright colors like chartreuse a lot of times on baits, but this year the bite's been like crazy on almost like solid chartreuse baits. So we just got a bunch of Kitex in, which were in some colors that I normally wouldn't stock, just because there's been such a demand for those real bright colors this year. So we got 3.3s and 3.8s in as many of the brighter colors as I could find. So those are in the store, as well as the new Grumpy Goby swim bait that they just came out with, which is the exact opposite of those bright baits. They're like incredibly natural looking baits. So those are in the store right now as well. So with all of that said, I hope you have a fantastic Memorial weekend. Don't lose sight of what this weekend is all about, and we'll see you in the shop this weekend. Hey, if you like this video content and you want to get updated as soon as the next video is out there, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon, and you'll get notified as soon as the next video is up.